This is Alexis Saralyn, and you are listening to and watching When the Bough Breaks podcast. We are here today with Dr. Robb Kelly. If you don't know who he is, just Google him. He's everywhere, he's all over the place. He's very accomplished. He's done a lot of work himself in his own personal life, and he devotes himself and his time to helping others. Dr. Robb Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show today. We're really excited to have
Oh,
you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Great to be here, guys.
Well, can you tell everyone a little bit about what you do? Just a little bit. If they're not familiar, if they haven't Googled yet, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hey, guys, my name is Dr. Robb Kelly. We specialize in neuroscience pertaining to childhood trauma, depression, PTSD, alcoholism, drug addiction, and just wellness as a whole. We also deal with entrepreneurs who want to take their business to another level. So we use the neuroscience and mindset. We're very big on the conscious and subconscious parts of the brain, and we're very big on what the brain and the mind sits inside the brain, mind over matter, the brain's matter, of how we can program the mind to have anything we want and have such a great day every single day and achieve whatever we want to achieve every single time. So we broke the code.
Right. I really like what you said about changing your mindset because that's basically what you do when you are recovering from abuse. You have to change your mindset, and that's when the healing starts. So, I want to talk about that. What made you want to come on this show? I know um, I just had an email kind of pop up in my inbox and from Courtney, I think, and she was saying, wow, this is actually really cool. I want to get you guys connected. What is your fascination about this show? One of the Bow Breaks podcast.
Well, what happens is we're a multi-million dollar company, and Courtney's my media director. So what she does is she goes around and she seeks out podcasts that she thinks I'll be amazing, and here's the host has to be amazing. Because I get hundreds of offers a week to go on people's podcasts, and you'll never see me promote anything here, guys. I'm not for that. I just think Alexis and myself can bring some greatness into your life. So she calls me, emails me, and on this occasion, you're one of three this year where she comes down and go, you got to meet this girl. And I don't argue with it anymore. I usually go, who is she? So it doesn't make a difference if you've got one follower or a billion follows. It's she saw something in you that she knows I will like, and that's the reason we're here.
Oh, I see. Well, for those of you who are listening for the first time, When the Bow Breaks podcast is a podcast that focuses on family estrangement. And we also talk about the events that kind of lead up to that. And one of those things is drug abuse. And can you talk a little bit about how, I don't know how to present this question because I feel like it's so big.
Yeah.
Um, in dealing with estrangement and drug abuse, can you talk about what that's like personally?
Well, I'm fully recovered today. I don't put tags on myself today.
Sure.
I'm just living my dream. But going back, back to childhood trauma, which is the gateway drug, by the way, and the estrangement not only from families and friends, but my alcohol, because alcohol was my deal. It wasn't so much drug. I like drugs. Alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made. Yeah, before you start throwing things at the computer, guys, I'll explain that later. But yeah, I mean, I lost everything. I lost my wife, my children, ages one and three, my houses, my cars. I moved out to my mom's and dad's. I stayed there for a week. They threw me out, and I ended up homeless on the streets of Manchester, England. Well, it's very cold, very rainy, and only 3% of people get off the streets where I was, and 97% of people die on the streets. So after seven attempts of suicide, on two occasions it worked, and I was dead on the street, and they brought me back to life on two occasions. And I hated them, man. I hated them then for that, Alexis, because I didn't actually go to hell when I was on the streets, but I could sure see it from where I was. I didn't want to live. I wanted to kill myself. I tried various ways, jumping off buildings, stuff like that, and it never seems to work. So, what intrigued me about addiction as a whole. And everyone has an addiction. And it could be watching too much TV or, dangerous ones, but everyone has an addiction. I want you to understand that, guys, before we start this journey. And I've got 35 years experience with 9,000 patients and millions of people that I see regularly. So, and we studied neuroscience. What kind of neuroscientists? Is like, I was sick of people going, well, you're an alcoholic, so just go to AA or go and see the doctor. I went to see the doctor and he told me he's an alcoholic. Well, here's the deal. Alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world.
Mm.
10 DWIs do not make me an alcoholic. A warning from the doctor doesn't make me an alcoholic. Three parts of my brain differ to every other non-alcoholic and addict out there. So the normal person doesn't have the difference in my head, especially the hypothalamus, which we'll get into. So, I'm on this journey from the moment I got off the street, huge spiritual awakening, to help the guys that are suffering from anything mental health pertaining to, and the families. Because what we found is when we got the families involved, and I don't mean you see them in treatment centers and they go once a month and the wife will tell the husband off and you did this and you'd made me feel like that. It's nothing like that. The spouse has to do work on themselves, and we do work with a guy that's suffering. That when we do that, the success rate of the patient goes up by 42% alone. That's why we
Wow.
have a 97% success rate, and we're the only company in the world that will refund your money if you relapse while still following our program. Nobody else can.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody else can say that. Nobody else dare say that, but we do.
That sounds like a pretty sweet deal, especially for families who have that one person who has had to go so many times. Because, it's very similar to, I mean, it's an abusive relationship essentially. And the average uh, person who's in an abusive relationship, it takes them at least 7 times, to an average of 7 times before they can leave that relationship or break that trauma bond. And so it's the same with drugs and alcohol. It can take so many times, so many tries for it to stick and for it to work. That to me is a safety net. That would make it easier for me to want to participate in a program like that. And I'm glad you mentioned that, for all of you listening. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal. Um,
It is. We've been working on this a long time, but you
yeah.
know, when we look at, I have two PhDs, behavioral science and psychology.
Mhm.
When you look at human behavior as a whole, females, not so much males, females stay in relationships way too long, especially when there is dysfunctional relationship. So we go back to childhood, and this is what happens, guys. Let's say a baby's born, female baby, and it's toddler, and the hot stove, and mum says, "Don't put your hand on the stove," but we always do, and he burns. The fundamental lesson right there to the child is whatever mom tells me is the truth.
Mm.
So however it is, I'm going to stick with that. If the house is dysfunction and there's alcoholism and abuse and stuff like that, that becomes normal life to me or the girl as a child. So when I leave that relationship with mom and dad, who was always fighting every night, dad comes home, starts a fist fight, that becomes the norm for me. That becomes a comfort zone where I can step away and hide while this is going on. So the girl leaves the house, finally goes to college or finds a boyfriend. She will attract the same guy as his dad was, and will stand for the same abuse that a dad used to do, to the extreme that if they find a good guy, they will self-sabotage the relationship. So just to emphasize that, back in the late 60s in England, there was a girl, 16 years old. She got snatched off the side of the street. People saw it, but they couldn't find the guys. There was a manhunt for like 2 months. All across the UK couldn't find her. 9 months later, a police car is following another car down a country road. He had a broken signal light, broken backlight. So he pulled him over. Now, this is the 60s, remember? And the way you used to find out if it was your car, they used to go, hey, what's in the trunk? Open it up, a yellow jacket, pair of boots. Open it up, yellow jacket, pair of, it's your car. Off you go. They found a stolen screwdriver in this guy's house. Now they're allowed to go back to the house and search. And sure enough, lawnmowers, drills, everything he'd stole from his hardware store, thousands of dollars worth of stuff. The police officer, or one of those, found a box in the corner. It was about 4 foot high by about 12 foot wide. They smashed the lock up and they were pointing at the guy saying, "We know you've got more stolen stuff in there." And there was the girl that went missing 9 months ago. So
Wow.
she was bruised and battered, but she was alive. You should take her out every day, abuse her, bath, food, restroom, back in the box for 9 months. Okay. When the policewoman leant over the box, she took this girl's hand and she helped the girl step out the box. She took a police coat off and she wrapped it around this poor girl. What's the first thing she did? She got back in the box. And that's what we do in relationships and life and work and stuff. We just stay in that comfort zone, man, as painful as it is, because
Yeah.
our programming and specifically the basal ganglia becomes in that routine that this is the norm and I can stay safe, even though they're being hurt on a daily basis. And what happens with life is we stay there and we can't
Yeah.
come out of it. And how many times have you heard guys say this with my patients anyway? The guy will say to them, "No one's going to have you with three
Right.
kids. Who do you think's going to have you?" What a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
That's a guy there. That's not a real man. Okay. I can't
Yeah.
stand it. That's a weak man saying what he can out of jealousy and fear. He wants to shut up and
Mhm.
move out if he wants to move out because anybody's capable of anything. You can't sit in that comfort zone, guys.
Yep.
You really can't. You will die in that comfort zone.
If you'd like to be a guest, send us an email, wtbbpodcast@gmail.com. Back to the show.
I just recorded an episode the other day where I was just kind of talking to survivors who are in that situation. Leaving doesn't sound like fun. It sounds very scary. And but not as scary as it does for you to stay. To me, what will happen to you is much scarier if you stay. And I thank God for people like, I don't want to say thank God because I'm an atheist, but you know what I mean, the saying, thankful for people who recognize that I was in an abusive situation when I didn't recognize that I was in an abusive relationship. I needed someone like that cop to put a coat around me and show me some compassion and show me that things don't have to be like that I don't have to get back in that box. So I really am happy that you're here and doing the work that you're doing. And I feel like I want to do the same thing. Tell people you do not have to get back in that box. It's not made for you. You
Yeah,
may
I
be
love
comfortable with it, but it's not made for you.
it's not made for you. Oh my God, I love that. Absolutely. It's not, but unless, like you said, you can't do this on your own
Yeah.
because you don't know what you're walking into or walking out of. You
Yep.
need somebody who's been through this, who can walk you out of this with them, knowing quite well everything's going to be okay.
Right.
You know?
And then once you leave, it's not like it's over. There's
Yes.
a lot of recovery, and some of those things, they're still stuck on you, those abusive things, those name calling, the poor self-esteem, or those habitual things, or the lack of boundaries, whatever it is. You have to go to therapy. You have to have support from other people to have those things kind of removed or be lifted from you. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time. And so when you leave, sometimes you're not just leaving that one person, you're leaving a whole entire situation and life and environment. And that's scary. The unknown can be scary. Um, when you don't know what to expect because you've experienced the horrors of this relationship. Now you're like, well, what is this person going to do? What is that person going to do? But you kind of have to move forward with that every day and learn how to trust yourself more than you trust other people. And that was something I had to learn, was to trust myself more than other people at first, because I didn't know who to trust. I trust the wrong people and then get up in those relationships again. So until I learned to trust myself, I didn't know who else to trust. That whole thing was, I was blinded from that.
Definitely. We get into patterns as human beings,
Yeah.
and it's very hard to break the patterns. And that's again the basal ganglia. When repetition strengthens, confirms of any situation that we are in. I mean, we're in one Every single day we get up, we might shower, then coffee, or coffee, then shower. We have a routine every morning that we don't know we do. So when you're trying to break out of a pattern, it's very hard when you don't know the pattern. Now, an easy pattern for explanation purposes is if you've ever been on a bus and you've gone to the seaside or something, bunch of guys, get off, few beers, everything's great. Time to come home, get back on the bus, which seat you sit in, usually the one you travel there in. See, that's a pattern you don't know, but you do. So we go back to relationships and hurt and all that stuff we go through, we go in the same pattern. Most people without help in traumatic situations, wives suffer from PTSD in relationships, go back to that or won't leave because of the fear. And fear isn't real. People think it is, but it's not. It's like if you ever go for an interview or stand on a stage, it's fearful, it's fearful, it's fearful. You get in the interview, the guy talks, the fear's gone. You get on stage, you open your mouth, the fear's gone. So it's not real. It's a preconception of not knowing. That's it. You about the Lord, have you don't know. You don't
right. Right. We just call it fear because that's just what
because we expect
it.
things to repeat. I didn't get that job, so I won't get this job. If you only knew, guys, how powerful the mind was, you've got to watch the internal dialogue. So a behavioral or a word from outside you can come in. 900 people, you're amazing. One person, you're terrible. You'll never do that. Usually one friend or family member, by the way, guys. Don't be silly. You can't do that. No, I'm just joking. That guy needs to go because what that does, going back to the hand on the stove from mom, we still believe after all these years, 1% of the brain still believe what people tell us is the truth. So because of the traumatic experience we've been through, we take that one that sits in the subconscious brain, and we concentrate on that one all the time.
Yeah.
You have to realize how we've got the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, guys, okay? The subconscious, in layman's terms, wants to kill you and make it look like an accident. And the conscious mind is the now, because that's all we have. So get this, guys. When you wake up in the morning, the subconscious mind wakes you up. And the reason it wakes you up is because of lack of oxygen. So the presence of oxygen equals a lack of disease. It's also the lack of the conscious mind. So on a normal circadian sleep pattern between 2 and 5, our body is at its lowest. It's at its vulnerable right there because there's hardly any oxygen. It's also a time when most people die of natural causes. So when we wake up, there's not a lot of oxygen. So we have to do the 20 exaggerated breaths in and out first thing before we do anything. What happens is that dies and the conscious brain kicks in. This guy here can do anything he wants to do that day. He can earn $1 million. He can be the best dad. He could get that job, whatever it is here. But every 24 hours, 3 parts of the brain reset itself. So have a guess who's going to wake you up tomorrow? It's this guy. And that's where the 24 hours, it's not an AA thing, they adopted it. The 24 hours is that the brain resets, 24-hour period that you have to start again. So rather than jumping back to old patterns, we've got to jump into new. So 300 neural pathways die every day in the head. There are billions. Neural pathways for layman is thought patterns. So 300 neural pathways die every single day. The question is, what are you replacing them with? Are you replacing them with the past? What people said? Are we replacing with the guys who are hanging around, the positive stuff? Because if you hang around 9 depressed people, you will become the 10th. If your friends are here and don't want you to succeed, and you want to pull away from that cesspit, you've got to start hanging around other people that are always lifting you up, always compliment you. When you say something like, I'm thinking of writing a book, they don't go, I don't know about it. They go, oh my God, I thought you'd already written. That's what happened to me. I thought you only got books out there, Dr. Robb. What? You need to. So I wrote a book, but for 12 years in Dallas, when I was in, my friends are going, don't be silly. You're not an author. Why would you do that? Moved here 4 years ago, completely different. I wrote a book. So you've got to stop listening to the naysayers. And it's really hard, this guys, with somebody who knows what they're doing, it's easy. You've got to stop listening to them with your internal dialogue, because we repeat what people say to us. A friend has a stupid saying, shut up, was one of mine. I hated it. I hated her for doing it. Stop doing it. Within 2 weeks, Alexis, shut. Oh my. So we repeat, mirroring part of the brain. We repeat. So do we want to take them negativity that becomes internal dialogue, which becomes a working part of the brain, which becomes action? Or do we want to go to the guys that's this place that I want to get to? Again, millionaire, best dad, best husband, whatever it is. Do we want to get there? Because when you're sat in this comfort zone here with the guys that don't really like you and care for you, you'd know it, this, guys. If there's something wrong with you, especially addiction, you go in the hospital, you see these guys here.
Mm-hmm.
How many people visited you? None. None. I can tell you. So you need to pull away from that cesspit, and they're going to try and drag you back again with little comments. Who does he think he is? That Dr. Robb. I've seen his house. I remember when he lived on the projects with us. Guys, I can go back and help you, but you know something? I'm not going to freaking live there with you. That's not
Right.
happening.
Right.
Oh, we're on a roll now, Alexis.
Yep.
Woo!
We're plowing through. I grew up in a house full of discouragement. It was weird. It was grandiose and it was discouraging at the same time. So it was very confusing. And, so my mom, she would, build our family up. Oh, we're so great. We were all musicians. We all had some kind of talent or smarts. We were all pretty nerdy people. And, um, but my mother and my dad kind of had this grandiose idea of our family. But at the same time, they could not stop criticizing each other. And I mean, of course, I started doing it too, because that's just what you do to everybody. That was your normal. That was how we just kind of went through the day to day. And so, yeah, that kind of set me up for other people telling me the same things. You have a raspy voice, or you shouldn't do this, or you're not good enough to do this, or you're a female. You should be doing this. And that's, whatever. So it took me a while to realize that those people are just sad, broken people and they need help. And that's not how everybody thinks of you. That is not everyone thinks that my voice is raspy. Not everyone thinks that there's something wrong with me because I'm a female. In fact, most people think I'm pretty cool, I found out, but I didn't know that until I got away from those people. Placing yourself in new environments is very important. Like you said, when you wake up with those new cells and everything like that, what are you going to do with them? What kind of people are you going to hang around with? Are you just hanging around this person because they're not your ex or they're not so and so? It's what kind of person are they? And how do they actually make you feel? Do they discourage you the same way? Are you putting up with it because you just think that that's how people are? That's not how people should be if that's how they are. Nobody should be constantly discouraging you from doing things while also trying to take from you at the same time. That's just silly.
There's two kinds of people in this world. The
Yeah.
people that love you for who you are, and the people that want to be you. And
Mm.
believe me or not, this is true. Because you will never, this is what I found with my 63 years experience on this earth. You will never find somebody who's doing as good as you or better ever criticize you. Never make a negative comment. Never. Okay. It's the wannabe guys. It took me a long time to realize that they want to be me because that's a bold statement. And who the hell do I think I am? But you have to work on that and realize that they do. Otherwise, why would they comment? So that internal dialogue must be strong, very strong,
Mm-hmm.
and stop hanging around them guys, man. Show me friends, I'll show you future. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard, you have to step away or, talk about it. Even a family member. There's always one person, family member or immediate circle with 3, 4 people that wants to fail. Try and find out who that is. Look around and see who isn't applauding when you win something.
Yeah.
And even if
Right.
they wrap it up in a joke, God, you'll never get that joke. No, no, no.
Yeah, right. I don't get that so many times in my life. I can't tell you that
Yeah,
people have criticized me while also, behind my back complaining that they didn't get what I had.
yeah.
And
It's crazy.
yeah, it is crazy. So I have a question for you. I know that you experienced some estrangement while you were going through everything you were going through. Um, I know that last time we talked, you kind of touched a little bit about you had some estrangement from your family, your children, but that you're reconnected now.
Oh,
Yeah, can you just tell me a little bit about that? Because I really want everyone to hear this story because, and I didn't ask him to share it with me yet. I wanted to wait until the show, just to kind of, keep it real with y'all. But he's going to tell us a story about how he sort of reconnected with his children after he sort of recovered. And so why don't you go ahead and take it away?
So many years ago, my children were taken off me when me and my wife split up. I She left with the kids. I'd stabbed her 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka. That's how crazy I was.
Ooh.
So when she left with the kids, my attorney got them back the next day. For 2 days, I was in a stupor. They weren't fed. They weren't changed diapers. The police kicked the door down. And the last thing my eldest, who was 3 years old, said to me was, "Daddy, Daddy, please don't go." And then walking down the pathway, holding Mummy's hand, she turned around again and he said, "Daddy, Daddy, please get better." And as they got to the gate, Mum opened the gate, and my little daughter turned around one more time and said, "Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking." And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So 28, 27, 30 years, I don't know how long. I met a message on Messenger. It's the middle of the night. I'm squinting at this message, and it's Charlie, my daughter. And he said, "Dad, I've seen you on TV. I don't believe what the lies that was told to me. I want to see you. I've got something to tell you." I woke my wife up. I'm crying. She called me Dad, Alexis. She, she called me Dad. And we was on a plane within like 2 hours. We have people around us that does things for us. So we're on a plane that gets there. The next morning, I'm waiting outside the door. I've not knocked on the door yet. All the memories and stuff's going through my mind. What a piece of crap. What sort of father are you? What you doing here? Blah, blah. And she opened the door without us knocking. And we hugged each other and we cried. And all them 30 years of estrangement, working with people, I always knew one day that this would happen. But anyway, we hugged. She grabbed me by my hand. She walked me into a living room and she handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter. Wow. It was right there and then I knew I was doing the right thing, I knew it was, because I've helped save millions of lives. And we go over there 2 or 3 times a year. We speak every day. She's now my lead therapist in my Manchester office. We have 5 offices around the world. So that was amazing. And then 6 weeks ago, my youngest daughter contacts me on Messenger. And we'll talk every day, and I'm going over to see them. They're going to come over here. So the moral of that story is no matter how far down the scale you've gone, no matter what you've done in life, especially through addiction, everything can be repaired. You can fully recover from that you're going through, and everything will be returned to you. I mean, it just does.
You are listening to When the Bough Breaks podcast. To support the show, visit buymeacoffee.com/WTBBpod. Back to the show.
I've heard it 9,000 times with patients of my own, never mind the millions and millions of testimonies I've heard around the world. So it goes for everybody, man. If you're sat in a 1-bedroom, broken up apartment, usually the guy, wife's left, took the children, you've got no job, you've got no money, I want to categorically tell you that you're going through it for a reason, and this is not your lot. I'm telling you now, it's not your lot.
Thank you for sharing that. And I mean, I can say as an estranged adult child myself, when you were saying how your daughter was basically begging you to get help and begging you to get better, that's all they wanted for you, was for you to be healthy and happy and just to be their dad. And they weren't expecting you to be some amazing person. They weren't expecting you to be who you are now, even probably. They just, wanted you to be healthy and happy and be their dad. And that's all I wanted for my parents too. And I want everyone who's listening, like, yeah, you can always heal. There is hope. There are all kinds of support avenues now, not like there used to be. These topics, they're not as taboo as they used to be. There's a lot of loving support out there that can help you repair the relationships with your family. Especially
just to reiterate on that, Alexa, I'm so glad
sure.
you said that, because it was amazing. When me and my daughter got back in contact with her, I always make sure I was very materialistic. We lived in the right neighborhood. We bought a Mercedes every year. We had the watches. Everybody thought this life was amazing. And I used to drop her off at school and know quite well that I had the biggest and the best Mercedes, dropping my daughter off. And when we got talking in her house that day, and I said, I did my best, all the Mercedes and stuff. And she said what you just said. She said, "Dad, I don't remember the Mercedes. I don't remember. What I remember, Dad, is you not being there. because you was drunk somewhere or you was working late, or, and I realized that the only people that's going to miss you are your children, not the boss,
Mm-hmm.
not your boss or anything like that. He don't care if you die or live. He's, yeah, if I die tonight, and I had a boss, within a week he's advertising my job. Within
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks, there's a new employee starting doing the job. No one's Rob who? I don't. Oh, that guy. Nobody cares. The only
Right,
thing that
right.
cares in life and matters is family. We have a rule at this company, and the rule is children first.
Mm.
I don't care what happens with your children. She's sick or that you do not come in work. We fully pay you. We'll get Ubers, whatever you want. We support because you've only got this time. You can't buy time back, man. And
Yeah.
quickly, and people think they have time, and you don't. So, mums, when you 1 minute I'm waving off to kindergarten, next minute I'm waving to college. Where does that time go? So, if you're putting something off, like starting a business or having children, I want to tell you guys, you're never ready. Okay, so stop
Yeah.
putting it until you're
Yeah.
ready. Never
Yep.
going to be ready. So
Yep.
do it today.
Hmm. And just backing up a little bit, we're almost out of time, but backing up a little bit to what you said in the beginning of the episode was childhood trauma is the gateway drug. That is so true. That is so true. And so I just wanted to say, for all of you parents out there, be good to your kids. And your kids, they don't expect you to be amazing. They just want you to be healthy, happy, well-rounded, and to be there for them. That's it.
If you look at the biggest picture, here's a statement that really annoys some people, but look at it in general. As a child, anything less than nurturing is child abuse.
Mm.
Let that sit there, guys. Don't just go, well, it's a bit strong. Sit there with that. We nurture when we can. We go to work. Two parents need to work these days to afford a mortgage and a car. We know that. But I was sent to the zoo to watch the chimpanzees and the monkey. And what I found was the nurturing. So when you can spend time with your kids, nurture them children, never shout them. How many times, Billy, you can't write on that wall? It doesn't work, guys, like that.
Yeah.
It's here. I tell you what, I'm going to buy a big piece of paper. I want you to draw because that beautiful drawing. I want you to draw on this piece and then repair the wall and get on with it because it's that stuff that sticks. A stupid little comment, a silly little comment that you make half jokingly can scar that child for life.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it and I work with them people.
Yeah. This is good stuff, guys. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I have to say, I booked you on my birthday. It was such a great gift for myself for the
Oh,
show.
wow.
And so I'm really glad that you're here. And thank you for all this good stuff. Thank you for sharing your own personal story of reconnection with your children. That is so beautiful. And and tenfold too, just holding your baby, your new grandbaby in your arms. And that's amazing. Everyone, thank you for listening to When the Bough Breaks podcast. Before we go, real quick, can you tell everyone how to get connected with you or how they can contact you and your services if they're interested?
All the social medias, and if you're listening or watching, I spell my name in two B's, ROBBKELOY.com. Come message us, talk to us, whatever. Like I said, if we can be of service via Messenger, I've got a bunch of girls here that work with people free of charge. So if you're going through something or your son and daughter is, contact us. We can help get you through. We'll never charge you a dime.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show again. This is Alexis Sarah Lynn, and you are listening to and watching When the Bough Breaks podcast.